need you. Ooh, I love you, love you. I do need you, need you. I do, I love you, love, I do need you. I love you, love you. I do need you. Ooh, I love you, love, I do need you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Luxe series. My name is Nerds. I'm here with Ancient Angel, and boy, do we have a doozy of a game. We have Tempers versus Interscope up on the docket here today.
And these two teams, I think, coming into this match, I'm really excited because it finally feels like we've got a match where this could genuinely go either way, right? We've always come into some of these matches, kind of with favorites on one side, and then the other side were like, they're gonna have to punch up, they're gonna have to punch above their weight coming into this series. But this, for the first time, feels like two teams where, yes, it could genuinely go either way. Yes, the standings obviously are a little mismatched, but that doesn't matter because these teams could genuinely go anywhere. And speaking of going anywhere, we've got some map picks to talk about because, hey, it's a best of 3, so we know that anywhere means specifically 3 maps.
But what is it going to be? Ascent Haven Lotus.
Classic.
I don't know. It's like going and getting a chocolate and vanilla swirl.
This is the milk toast of Valorant. As I'm looking off into the distance here, ignore the fact that Ascent and Haven are not Ascent and Haven, but it's okay. It's fine. Ascent and Haven are both maps in Valorant. And that's
you know what
good.
it is? It's Halloween time, like it's the season for it, so they're cosplaying right now. Is what it is.
This is their costume.
Yeah, they're like, they're it's like my older brother, my younger brother. They're like, dressing up like each other because haha hee hee.
I mean, it makes sense because like everyone plays the exact same on both of those maps, so it's totally fine. They're close enough, and so we are actually starting on Ascent, to be very clear. To avoid confusion, Ascent is the first map pick of this series. It was specifically the map pick of, I believe it was Temper's map pick. If I
will double check.
Crazy.
I'm gonna believe you. I'm gonna double check.
Make sure that
it is Temper's map pick. Yeah.
So
and then Interscope pick Lotus.
Right, exactly. So Temper's map pick Ascent, Interscope Lotus. Interscope just starts defense on both of these maps, so that's why it's there. But Temper's picked into Ascent. It kind of makes sense when on paper you're looking at the firepower of this team, and it is just heavy. And generally speaking, we talk about Ascent. It's the map that everyone knows how to play. Everyone knows you throw the KO knife here if you want to default B, you throw the KO knife here if you want to default A, you run this Sova dart, you run these Omen smokes, you run this Killjoy setup. Everything has already been mapped out for you, so let's just frag.
I don't know how many times I can roll my eyes before I get the point across of like, the agent select when we get into it is most likely just going to be box standard. We're going to see KO. We're going to see KJ. We're going to see Sova, like you discussed. This is how we're going to default. This is how we're going to push. This is how Jet's going to enter onto site with a cloud burst up to generator, and then immediately followed by a KO knife and yada, yada, yada. And who's to be surprised? Please lock in the Cypher. Please lock in the ISO.
Please
I'm begging.
Lock it.
I'm on my hands.
Lock in the Vise. Lock in the Vise.
Yes.
Please.
Give us something to like talk about. Because okay, we at least have Cypher coming out here, which honestly I think as a meta pick is I think it's great. Good, let him frag out, because at least at that point it's not going to be the same monotonous default, and we can try and go for some sort of maybe change of pace, right? Allow for a walk-in rather than a high octane dash in on site. You can slowly work your way through, have that ISO walk in, break a couple pieces of utility, and then frag out.
I don't necessarily think it's going to be about slow. I think it's going to be about splits, ironically enough, the map that isn't in the map pool currently. But you're going to see, especially with the way that ISO likes to play, and specifically how aggressive Dale can get on this agent, you're going to see a lot of plays where he's, in some cases, completely on his own, away from the team, but being able to use that double tap in a manner to just frag out and take a bunch of space, especially, towards mid, if the team, his team wants to go start heading towards B on that attack half, or, maybe he wants to go A and his team is going to go mid. But because we're starting on the defense, realistically what you're going to see is a lot of those first swings, right? I wouldn't be surprised if you see that mobility with both Rillakkuma and Dale combined on the defense. And on the other side, right, Tempers, it's nothing special, right? It's the same 5 agents. We've seen it before. Tootsie's on the KJ, probably going to have a little bit of, input into those mid rounds, especially going to be able to call on those lurks. For the side of Papo and Patoke, it's really going to be about how they choose to use their information utility to snuff out where this ISO is, because that ISO is going to be a threat.
Another thing also that I kind of just thought of is that Tempers is picked this map, whereas Interscope is kind of just, we're playing on it. So they might be going for just, okay, let's try and frag out, not necessarily being like the most concerned with like the meta and the strategy that the meta provides, but thinking, okay, we have some other, pocket strategies that we can whip out here. Let's run it. Let's see how we can do with this sort of composition rather than going with the standard stuff.
That standard stuff, huge, super important. And speaking of standard, for that attacking side, it's that very standard B site kind of pressure that you're putting on with that Sova utility. But this swing out cat is huge from Rilakkuma. It finds one, but the immediate trade is there, and that A site split, it's becoming an ever increasingly likely. Oh, that jump spot.
Didn't work out too much. Papo gonna take down Dale. They're on the defense here, so that's the thing I find the most interesting. Knife is gonna get one more as the score evens, at least in terms of the player count.
That's a huge pick. The fact that Patoke can find that's going to draw those rotations. And look at that A site, completely empty, free for the taking. But for the side of Tempers, they have to start taking it. They actually have to go for this, or else, they're going to be greeted with an immediate retake, and Destroyer already looking to peek out heaven.
They do only have a frenzy. Tootsie's gonna pop them through, and it's now just up to Akai seeing if they can land a couple shots. Paranoia is gonna push them away, and I don't think Interscope has this in the bag. Just a little bit of a hunch. There's only 3 players on this other side of the smoke.
Yeah, Patoke just cleans things up onto Akikai. They get that pistol round, and that's huge, especially on Ascent. And especially when you're running against this kind of weird off-meta comp from the side of Interscope, where you have Destroyer on a Clove, and you're seeing these really aggressive pieces in the form of Rilakkuma and Dale. This is, being able to get this weaponry online and on the board means that you're going to be able to start to generate momentum, and you're going to be able to start to expect a lot more aggression because they're on these ecos. They kind of have to make a play here.
Interestingly enough, Interscope buying up Sheriffs into this to see what shots they can land. Rilakkuma early with the peek. They have that tailwind, so I feel like they go for the re-peek to try and burn it. They don't. Expired Nuts is on the other end of it. They do not want to take that fight, and realizing there's too many players for them to contest with.
So you move across the map, right? You're talking about too many players. That B site, it was just Tootsie on the lurk, and eventually gives it up, breaks that utility to force some rotations over, and that's great. But mid is still a very big piece in this puzzle, and Akikai still has that shut down. Gets that opening frag onto Expired, and Dale finds Sheffy as well, and Tootsie finally gets rooted out of that lurk, and now all of a sudden, it's a 2v5, make it a 1v5 for Papo. All of a sudden, it's all gone wrong, but the cleanup from Papo over towards the bottom of mid.
They have a dart. The spike is down. The potential could be found. Knife holding on to this angle. They were separated. So Papo, I was really thinking to myself, Papo has a chance to isolate and get the ace clutch to turn it back. But this Thrifty coming out from those Sheriffs, as I was discussing at the beginning of that round, really does work in Interscope's favor. And I feel like this aggression is only something a comp like this can accomplish.
They've done excellent work, right? It almost feels like you can't react to that, right? They win the anti-eco, the round they're not supposed to, and now it's, bare bones weaponry on the other side. Tootsie, the one with the best equipment here, and immediately taken off the board by Destroyer. So these 4 players kind of remaining on the board here for Tempers, completely alone on the A side of the map. And, Knife and Rilakkuma are just ready, jiggling away at this A main kind of choke point.
Trying to catch a timing of some kind.
Yeah.
But it looks like the entire Interscope roster has it more or less locked down. That's going to be the information gained onto these players. Dale going to take advantage of that. They're volleyed off on top of it. Expired Nuts and Sheffy picking picks of their own. It's their turn for the Sheriff supremacy. Unfortunately, Interscope is not going to let it slip by.
Yeah, that's a great defensive hold from Interscope and a great defensive round from Dale, right? Being able to anchor down that cross position in tree, you know, kind of uses the fact that there isn't really a good sense of cover there from the attacking side of Tempers, capitalizes wonderfully, and now look at this, what's supposed to be a bonus round for the side of Interscope, right? The only concession is one Marshall. Everyone else, full rifles.
Oh, Rillakuma's ready to peek and expire. Nuts is gonna expire Rillakuma. Their best buy date has been revoked.
Yeah, no more. No more Rillakuma in round number 4. Instead, you just have that hyper-aggressive piece in Dale, and that's a huge jump spot because now Dale's about to get swung on by every single player on the side of Tempers. Papo's the one to clean things up. And the next up to bat in mid is Destroyer, and immediately taken out, swatted out by Patoke. And now that 2v5 that commences, I mean, this is a great attacking response from the side of Tempers.
Tempers also has that Hunter's Fury, so they can play back off of it. This knife giving away Akia is going to be huge. It's a 1-for-1, though. The numbers are still in favor for Tempers, and they have an ultimate. Now they have another one. They're not going to even need to use it just because they have that player's advantage. But going into the coming rounds, it's going to be huge. Speaking of, Papo is going to go down.
That was a great preen by Knife, but you're in a 1v3 and you're smoked off. And they still have a ton of utility to play around here. Anything you get here is great, but yeah, Patoke clean things up for absolutely free 99 and ties things back up, and Tempers now in a decent spot because this is gonna force a huge investment out of the side of Interscope.
The first rifle round that we get to see, and looking at Interscope's economy, it's surprisingly not as bad as I expected. It's worse off for Tempers being on those light shields that they've carried. I feel like they've carried some of that over. I don't think they took that much damage in the previous round, so all in all, it makes a little bit of sense. In terms of the ultimates, I was gonna say we see 2 ultimates and they get immediately popped as Patoke is just pushing straight into this, trying to isolate the Sentinel on the site. They go down, it's a trade, and they can even pick KO back up.
Yeah, that res is huge as well, because as Tootsie finds Dale through the smoke and it's just smoke trades back and forth both sides, that crucial kind of revive in KO, at the very least just being able to find a couple extra bullets to the body there is huge. And now all of a sudden 4v3, Rillakuma on the swing gets taken out and traded, and now all of a sudden Papo's left alone on the site. It was a huge 3k by Destroyer, and now that clutch from the attacking Sova has to come through. Destroyer can't close it out. The 3k from Papo is the thing that keeps Tempers in the lead.
Huge play from Papo. All things considered, Interscope had the sort of pinch onto Papo, except for Papo had the isolates. They managed to kind of, you know, work their way around that triple angle and just take those players down, showcasing that, hey, not only are the players good, the comp is good, we're not going to let Interscope kind of meme with us and have this sort of off-meta pick rattle our bones.
Bones be rattled, skeletons be shivered.
Scanning ahead.
That peek from Rillakuma. This just shows you exactly how aggressive this guy wants to be. Just taking all of that space, going through the smoke, just ready to hold for any peek out cat, but there's no one there on the side of Tempers. They've all kind of opted towards B, and that's actually huge. That's Dale going into that kill contract and gets taken out by Patoke. That leaves a huge gap for the defense to now try and backfill on B.
Inspired with that Blade Storm. Fallen back. As they have a decent amount of space towards A, and they are confident that they've drawn at least some sort of rotate. The problem is, look at all that Cypher utility on that A site.
And the clear was there towards B, so you can see those defenders immediately moving back. Interscope, they're starting to kind of put the pieces together, so even though they know the execute is coming, they're not really going to have a chance to stop it.
Ooh, and Rillakkuma having to get out of dodge. They do have a not dead yet and 2 more ultimates to boot. This neural theft could give them some info. There's the Hunter's Fury. Papo finding Rillakkuma with a shock dart going deep. Akia seeing what sort of picks they can find. That's Sheffy down. Information ultimate invested as Papo takes down Akia and grabs E-Boy Destroyer on top of it. Not dead yet as E-Boy Destroyer is in it. The plant needs to be stuck. Oh, expired nuts going down here is just going to add fuel to the fire. There is a little bit of a crossfire with Tootsie back towards main. They're wanting E-Boy Destroyer to go down, and they don't get any info. E-Boy going down there means that now Knife is just stuck into this. They find the first, have a dart for main as Tootsie now has been spotted and information gained.
Oh, the stick, but does Tootsie swing? He's got a count in his head, but Knife's not faking. The smoke is there from the clove, but Tootsie can close things out because of that low HP. That keeps the side of Tempers, again, another round added to their lead now as it's 4-2, and economically, things are looking, kind of backbreaky for both teams here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at it right now. Sheffy might not have the cleanest of buys. Tootsie could grab for them. It's not going to be the end of the world. And on the flip side, Interscope is currently down a couple of rounds in a row. They needed that round to sort of break the momentum. They do get a loss bonus, which is okay, but it's not going to be enough to make up that deficit.
Expired leading the charge in mid, trying to force an engagement, and it will be forced onto Destroyer and actually wins that. Takes a ton of damage, but still gets the pick nonetheless. And now that leaves Dale in a tough position alongside Akikai to try and defend Tree. That doesn't come through.
Akikai could have gotten that
God.
through the smoke. Dale's going to find expired nuts. The bomb running around towards mid. Sheffy onto it. They have a classic in hand, and again, I think it was a broken buy from both teams. I think Temper's literally Sheffy's the only player without it. Potokov goes down. That's 3 players for Tempers as they make their way onto this B site, breaking all of that Cypher util, at least as much of it as they can find so far. The dart misses. It's going to be rough. Papo takes down one, gets another on the board. A shock dart in hand. Spike going down. Shock darts traded, and so is Tootsie going down with it.
Tootsie traded. And now that 2v2 commences. Hunter's Fury actually used and will take out Knife. What a huge pick by Papo. And now that 2v1. It's a clutch needed for Dale, and he's been able to sneak across the gap. Papo, you're stuck in, but now your position's going to be known if you're Dale, and the back away is just not fast enough. Sheffy gets you down through the wall, and Tempers, this is an attack side that's really starting to come together.
And I mean, this is why the comp kind of works. It's generally because it does provide, all the holes for the utility. You get information, flashes, a really strong sentinel, and probably one of the strongest smokes in the game, just because of the other utility that Omen provides. For Interscope, I mean, I like the comp just because I think it's cool that we're not seeing the same meta stuff. But on paper, I don't really think that they have the same firepower. Like, for example, they don't really have hard flashes.
No, they just have Dale.
Which, I mean,
they don't even have a blind like with the Omen, so you're really just relying on pure fragging power, and unfortunately, when you're just getting spotted out by a util like that, it's not really going to help. So as Rillakkuma falls to that frag grenade, and this 3v3 on the site will have to commence, Akikai actually takes out Sheffy, and that's huge to start this retake.
Ooh, it's gonna be now a 1v2. Knife grabs Tootsie on the last, and Papo is just down here. Hopefully the firepower can work, because Interscope desperately needs this round. 18 HP, breaks the shield. Papo falls, and finally we see a round for Interscope. But to the point I was discussing earlier, that makes so much more sense why the retakes are just not that clean. They just have to frag out like they did in that previous round. Otherwise, they can't win.
It's about fragging out, and it's also about flooding. That's the other big thing. When you give a team like Tempers the time to set up in their post plant, and they can get the spike down, they can use all of those mollies, right? The Killjoy, the Shock Dart, the frag grenade from the KO to stall out and allow yourself to get into good post plant positions, it's really hard to try and retake with the comp that Interscope have. But what they're really good at is catching the opponents off guard, flood retaking, and catching that spike before it goes down, like we saw Knife and Dale do in that round. And now all of a sudden, you know, there is a fair bit of momentum that they have coming into this, right? Papo, the top frag, 15 and 6 for the side of Tempers, only on an Ares.
There's that owl drone coming through. Nade towards Boathouse. It's a stall for both teams, all things considered, because they got spotted out with info, and now they're falling back. I think it's been read into because look at this. We see immediately Dale popping into mid and Tootsie with the read. Rillakkuma falling as well, I believe, through a smoke on top of that E-Boy Destroyer back into a corner. They give them up a Vandal. Oh no, and Tootsie has such a good timing on it. Tempers knowing exactly how to play. There's only 2 players up, and it's literally, you know, no fragging potential. Interscope only has a bit of information from Knife. It's not going to be much.
Knife has to, you know, essentially just try and play like the worst retake known to man, and based on that flash from Papo, or not from Papo, but with Papo, this retake was inevitably doomed. A flawless attacking round from the side of Tempers, and once again, they've pieced together something really nice here, right? On, you know, a 50-50 map, you're already up 6-3. The worst this half can go is 50-50, right? 6-6.
Mm-hmm. And looking at how Interscope is currently playing, I don't think they're playing bad. It's just Tempers understands that if they can take down those key players, it's like playing chess with 3 queens. Sure, queens are powerful, but once they're out of the position, if you could just sneakily take them down with a bishop, then it's over.
Oh.
Speaking of the queens, Dale's popping off. They take down expired nuts.
You slay Queen, and Sheffy will slay Akikai, and now that 4v4 will commence. That's huge, just also, because you're able to take out that Sentinel, that passive info.
Papo has taken the E-Boy Destroyer's Odin, and I just like how E-Boy Destroyer's Odin is that, you know, E-Boy one. Speaking of which, Sheffy is going to get destroyed by E-Boy.
Yeah, by Mr. Destroyer himself. Couple shock darts traded around as this rotate is starting to commence, and look at Tootsie's position, pushed up all the way towards A to find a free site. Sure, Dale's gonna get spotted by that turret, but ultimately, I mean, this A site is free. There's gonna be a post plant down, and while they don't have the numbers, certainly they'll have some pretty good positions.
Oh man, 3 off the ult for Papo, and they're just trying to farm it up as much as they can. Good timing for Dale. Patokov goes down. Dale with the 3K, 4 on the round, and we're talking about fragging potential. Dale has brought it.
You know, I thought they were going to go in a little bit faster than that, but no, instead they give Interscope the time and the chance to rotate in, to cut off that bomb before it can go down, before post-plant positions can be solidified, and all of a sudden, they're able to collect that defensive round. And so now, as we're coming into these last 2 rounds of the half, the economy is kind of on a backbreaker. Whoever wins this round will have a definitive advantage in the bye over this last round.
Oh, they're powerless. These are the ultimates that they've been stacking up. Tempers is going to enter off of this fairly quickly, and we see the kill contract being used. It's going out blue. Interscope has the numbers. It's now a 2v5 if they can't get this KO up. The core is being stabilized to bring it back, but unfortunately, at such low HP, they've already been tagged through.
Oh, Tootsie gets caught out by the Odin of Knife, and Sheffy, you can't do much in a 1v5. A flawless round for the side of Interscope to try and bring things back here, and it's a really, really pitiful buy from the side of Tempers here. I mean, yes, they're able to get a couple Vandals, but that's really about it. You're going to have to try and hope that you can get Expired's Blade Storm online, so they'll have anything that isn't a Stinger.
Honestly, what I can think of is that like it's 6-6. You're talking about how Interscope potentially has the ability to bring it back 6-6, and how Tempers, the worst they can do is 6-6.
Yeah. And then here we are. But Bladestorm online, and there is going to be, you know, a very fast rotate, but that lockdown comes into play, and there is no Hunter's Fury on the defending side to try and counter this. There's just shots from Rilakkuma. What is that?
A solid read to stay into it. A Hunter's Fury for Tempers to try and find something. I don't know how much it's gonna work. Akio skid by that as well. Oh, Papo is alone on the site. They take it. Sorry, Papo's going for the plant. It's actually Rilakkuma alone on there. And now it's a 3v3 to try and retake this space.
But those post-plant positions, they're pretty set in stone. And what was the one thing that we talked about in terms of who gets that positional advantage? It tends to be the side of Tempers, but a 2v2 still there. And Papo, off the back of the reveal, will be able to take out Dale, and that's the spray down from Tootsie that you needed to guarantee yourself a lead at the half.
Switching sides.
What an interesting play for Dale, just dropping down. 5-7 though isn't bad, all things considered. It was 3-6, and they could have taken it a lot further in Tempers' favor, but it's not going to be 6-6. They did go above that 6th round mark, and it's going to put them in a really solid spot. Interscope need to win this pistol and the bonus afterwards to even the score.
Now, there is something to be said here about the fact of like, oh, well, if the retakes were so bad from the side of Interscope, then surely their attacking half will be pretty bad because it's going to be hard for them to take space.
I don't think so.
Right. The good thing about the attacking half is you have a whole map to work with. And so if you can utilize that whole map very well and start splitting on certain areas and start taking fights from multiple angles, all of a sudden, you know, your attack half doesn't look so bad. And that's a huge flash to try and get a little bit of info and potentially some spam done, but nothing comes of it. So instead, it just has to be frags out of this smoke.
We don't see a split, just a lot of stall utility, and they hear the footsteps, so they've got to know. Now this mid rotate's going to come through. They do leave Cypher to lurk, so I enjoy that, but other than that, they're not splitting into any area. They're just kind of solo pushing, and if they funnel into the wrong spot, it's going to be over. Akia getting the pick onto Papo is going to be huge, but they're stuck alone right now.
Ooh, what a great flank from Knife to be able to check out Expired, and now as Tootsie's tucked in towards Hell, never got cleared, just waiting for his teammate to make a move, and all of a sudden, he could find Dale, but the timing just barely betrayed him, gets immediately traded out, and just like that, it's Interscope to win that pistol off that mid-round rotation.
I was a little scared, I'll be so real, because we saw Rilakkuma kind of going alone towards mid. I just am happy that they kind of fell back knowing that, okay, we're going to get pressured. We should try and either take this B site or regroup with the team before we rotate.
And you also have to give credit to Knife in that round, right? The quick decision to go split through tree up into heaven to go ahead and catch Expired off guard. Huge there to get them that post plant in the first place. And
also,
I think a post plant might just be upcoming very fast.
Also, I think they bought at least some sheriffs up into this. I know Tootsie literally is running around with a sheriff currently, so it makes sense that they have some invested into this. The problem is, for at least right now, Tempers is losing some HP. You're going up against a bunch of duelists and aggressive agents, so I expect them to have some aggressive weaponry, and that's exactly what they do. They have Vandals and Judges and Guardians galore.
No. Oh, Knife. You don't know, my friend, about Dale and his Judge. So, Papo gets taken out, and all of a sudden, Akikai finds Tootsie, and that A site completely open.
That's a Vandal down. That's a Vandal down. They've picked it up. They're literally pack hunting together. Tempers could do the exact same thing that Interscope did previously. They also have picked up the Judge. Akikai is stuck alone here. Patok is going to take them down, and there's 2 players for Interscope to try and salvage this round, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
One enemy remaining.
There's still a chance, and that 2K from Destroyer right there. That's what you needed, and Knife can close things out. But this is a costly round. A round that you were expected to win cleanly, might I add. You lose 3, and you're only able to carry over a Spectre and a Judge.
Yeah, I think they're buying up the Vandals into this. Honestly, I don't mind them buying up the Vandals. All things considered, they're going to be going into a rifle, so having something to contend with makes sense.
The problem is economically, right? Like, this is going to
bonus.
cripple you. Yeah, this is your bonus. You have to now win this, or else you're forced down to a save. And the only real kind of advantage you'll have going into this round is the Neural Theft from Akikai, which is conditional, right? You have to find a pick in order to even get a chance of activating it.
Oh, and look at where Dale is. They're alone. I mean, it's not the worst position to be in because of the double tap. If they can find the timing. What? Expired. Dale, as Expired Nuts is going to take them down. That was just a flick and a half.
That's... I don't even know if that's a wrist breaker, if that's just a straight up shatterer. Because that was ridiculous, and, you know, now Sheffy's left to kind of pick up the pieces. You know, Dale said, I got mine. And by I got mine, I mean I got killed by Expired, who's now tucked into Wine. Does get taken out by Destroyer, and now all of a sudden those numbers very quickly equalized. Ugh.
It's possible, though.
Ugly dazzle there, and
Hey,
Akikai finds Papo. This is doable.
It's very winnable, especially because Akikai is, you know, maintaining that sort of pressure towards Garden. You gotta make sure you clear them out. Otherwise, if you flood in on the site, you're gonna get pinched. Akikai takes the fight, wins it, pops their ultimate, gets the third on top of that. Akikai is a thorn in their side. Sheffy grabbing Rillakkuma as a consolation prize, but look who's still there. Akikai, along with the potential peek here from Knife. Honestly, if Knife knifed them there, it would have been so poetic. But they need to win this round like we stated at the beginning. They have to for their economy. So they're going to go for the bullets instead.
All chefs must beware of knives.
I didn't even think of it that way, but yeah.
You would know.
Dude, the amount of cuts I have on my finger from one cooking stream is one cooking event is insane.
Well, thankfully, you'll have a little bit of time to heal in this timeout from the side of Tempers. They're just, I think, trying to figure out where to go from here. Like, how do you kind of recenter yourself after losing your bonus round? And what do you do in terms of defensive adjustments to be made to start countering this very lurk-heavy, split-heavy style we're seeing from this attacking side of Interscope?
And the thing about Interscope too is they're not like sending 2-3 splits. They're doing 1-4 splits, and the 1-4 is sending, for example, usually Dale or Akikai, who are not only probably like insane aim as we've been seeing, but also just have really good timings on their side. They have a really good head for the game where they're like, okay, we know how we're going to enter into this. I think for Tempers is just being aware of that and maybe coordinating more aggression. Like, I'm not going to say that they want like 1v1 Akikai all the time. They did try to play a little bit more together, but maybe, you know, flushing out a bit more utility and reserving some of that instead of spending it out early could be a little solution, but who's to say?
Well, that's a ton of utility and a flash, a team flash specifically. So Expired goes down and Patoke the next to fall as mid has been completely and utterly battered and decimated. And at this point, 3v5. Sheffy, can you find Akikai? Well, Tootsie finds Destroyer first instead, and there's Sheffy with that kill onto Akikai. All of a sudden, Tootsie caught in between a rock and a hard place. You find Rillakkuma, so yet another frag that goes Tootsie's way, and now numbers are equal thanks to Destroyer not finding an assist.
I say it looks possible if they can get a pinch in time. All things considered, we should see Papo pick up a Vandal or some sort of weapon on this flank. If they pinch these players, it might work out. Oh, did they also smoke that off to pretend that it's the real smokes? That should sell it, but Knife was looking, I think Knife was looking towards it, at least for the time being, until they had to flick over and contest Sheffy.
Yeah, it was, again, brilliant timing between Papo and Sheffy. The top frag and the bottom frag working together there to be able to finally close out that Thrifty round. And you're absolutely right. And the crucial fight there isn't Papo onto Knife. It's actually Sheffy onto Dale. Because if Sheffy loses that fight, then all of a sudden this flank from Papo is completely worthless. So the fact that Sheffy can win that and distract Knife for just a second is the key winning factor. And now, economically, you're booming if you're Tempers. You're booming so much that you're giving Expired an op to go peek towards tiles.
Oh, yeah. And at this point, Expired is unfortunately very close to their date, at least right now. Tootsie, seeing what they can work with. They are going to molly themselves off. Make sure that they can't push in onto the site. Expired does grab one, though, so the op is worth it in their hands. On such low HP, could be spammed, but it's just going to be a shock dart to grab them. Still, the double found, so the value has been drawn out.
They still have the numbers should a retake be guaranteed, but that spike has yet to go down. So there's Sheffy still in towards market, using that paranoia to try and get involved early, and there's that plant from Knife finally coming through, and that smoke eventually helping to block things out. But Sheffy going on a huge rampage onto the site, forces Knife alone, 1v4, tucked up so the turret doesn't spot him. Instead, it's just going to be the swing from Tootsie to do it. There's that diffuse, and Tempered, after a pretty rough start to the half, finally back to their winning ways.
They just needed that timeout to kind of discuss, all right, we are getting lurked on, we're getting kind of split on. How do we prevent that? By contesting some space and understanding how to layer utility for retakes. And also, they prevented they prevented a lot of players from living in getting into good post plants.
I said at the very start of the stream that this was going to be anyone's game. It could go either way. And I still think that, because I have no clue. I think we're seeing OT at this point, right? Like, these have just been two teams going back and forth, constantly being at each other's throats. And every time it feels like someone gets an advantage, it's going to get swatted away. And Expired sitting here in B main with this op, I mean, this is kind of the round-defining setup, is where this op is at this point.
Baiting out a lot of util. I mean, Sova was just caught out. Knife was just there, and then they're immediately, you know, not even firing back, not pushing in. They're like, okay, you guys can dump all this util. Just trying to get some info before we push.
Oh, wait a minute. This timing on the cage. This could be huge, because Expired not checking for Akikai from the other side. Gonna be able to take out that op, and now that split onto B shall commence. But it's Papo and Ivan specifically to hold that crossfire and gain those numbers. And not only numbers, also gain ults. So Destroyer and Rilakkuma would have to go huge in order to convert this.
Oh man, it doesn't scan E-Boy Destroy, but they still get the pick, and now it's up to Rilakkuma to see if they can roll this back round into their favor. Unfortunately, they have 3 players to contend with here, and that's going to be a high-low setup to get them double, a 2 over Interscope.
Not only 2 over, but also double digits.
I think my brain lagged there because I was going to say double digits and then 2 over.
Double over?
Double over.
I mean, in all
Triple
fairness,
under.
in that round, it was kind of Interscope that doubled over, right? Like, they just completely capitulated as soon as that site hit went underway, and that was due to that crossfire from Papo and Patoke. And all of a sudden, you know, this op from Expired can still get involved in rounds, and they saved a bunch of ultimates, right? 4 ultimates on the board here in round number 19.
That op immediately moving from mid to A to kind of surprise these players. It's gonna come through, and unfortunately Expired Nuts is gonna be taken down as a punishment. Knife getting the trade onto Sheffy. Tempers are down in players. The spike getting picked up yet again, and Interscope is seeing what sort of damage they could do. Rilakkuma is out alone in here. They get spotted by it. But again, it's going to apply pressure. You now have to look into 2 different areas. Tootsie not sure where to focus their attention. but immediately it's going to get punished.
Ooh.
Papo and Patonke are going to be able to take 2 players down.
3 ults. All of them available. The lockdown, the first to get used here. There's that Hunter's Fury getting used, and Papo's gonna use the same one in kind to be able to take out Knife, and all of a sudden, Dale, 1v2, technically a 1v1, but he gets detained because the lockdown was never destroyed. Papo can clean things up, clean out the side of Interscope, and get another round on the board for Tempers. All of a sudden, that's 4 in a row, and that's 11 found.
I feel like this is a perfect candidate for a timeout here for Interscope if they decide to go for it, to try and give themselves some sort of. I mean, I feel like I'm so aware of like potential timeouts at this point because Interscope, they just got 3 rounds that were retakes. And they have not had the ability to just get themselves in a solid retake position. And they plant that bomb really quickly to try and, you know, win the round and have it be a little bit scrappy, but at least take that crown home. It just hasn't worked though. So maybe working on the retake positioning, and even more than the retake positioning, trying to get initial picks. They had a decent chunk of success with sort of that spread out default, finding early picks. They just lost it near the end.
Well, the other thing as well is they really need either better executes or just, like you were talking about, just a better read of the map. A lot of those rounds that they got at the early end of the half was due to the fact that they were able to find their way onto basically empty sites. Either there was one person there or there was nobody there. And when you have that amount of utility pouring onto one person, you're able to completely clear out the site. There's no ultimates to disturb your piece as you can plant the spike, and then all of a sudden you're in good post-plant positions. But over these last couple rounds, it's been investments of ultimates, it's been catching people off guard, it's been running down into sites that are already fully stacked up, that have given a complete advantage to the side of Tempers.
There they are.
Information gain. Tootsie gonna take advantage of that, and hopefully Tempers can at least get this match point set up in their favor. Interscope, they're the ones that took the timeout, so they're hoping against that, playing the odds here. They even have the double up Dale and Jet towards mid, contesting it all together. Dale being pushed out. Akia gonna take the first, pop that ultimate for info. Akia gets another onto Poppy. Rillakumo grabbing Sheffy's gonna give them numbers. Expired Nuts, the only player to find anyone right now, and Dale's just gonna pop straight through.
The one thing I will give ISO credit for is the fact that he is a built-in op counter.
Yep.
You can't shoot through the shield. You can only shoot on the shield. And you know, last kill was impressive, but the real defining player of that round is Akikai, right? Being able to frag out of B main, find your way into market, and completely open up mid for your team to just essentially stomp over what little was remaining of the defense is huge there. And, you know, that's a huge way to start to regain your momentum, especially after losing 4 in a row.
Dale gonna pop everything through, jumping across the molly to apply so much pressure. They're going for a faster execute here. Akia getting spotted, a shock dart in the corner to take them down, finish it off. Destroyer though gets the trade in numbers, a second onto them. That's a molly at your feet as they have the double tap no longer active. E-Boy Destroyer back in the action, 2 found. It's the last player standing. E-Boy Destroyer needs to take this fight, but they know they just have to run. Oh, the flash is gonna find him and it's over. There's no time.
Nope. For a second, I thought it would have been good, but that was a really mindful use of the flash there from Patoke, being like, he might be able to swing. Let's just throw the blind, and blind works out perfectly. They find themselves on map point here on their own map pick. So now all of a sudden, you're in a really good spot where, you know, the only ultimate online is the kill contract from Dale, which could equally hurt the side of Interscope as much as it could help them. And then, you know, you can just kind of work your way towards getting some of those super impactful ultimates back online if you need to.
We're about to see a brawl here. There's that kill contract to isolate one of the players. It's going to be Expired Nuts to take the fight, and they lose it, unfortunately. Rillakkuma grabs one more off screen. Sheffy has a timing, but unfortunately, it's going to be read into Akia. Grabs them. They want double digits of their own. E-Boy Destroyer pops out and wins the fight onto Tootsie, leaving just Papo alone. And a flawless victory is just what Interscope ordered.
So, I'm learning something here, which is if all else fails for Interscope, Dale go kill. We win round.
Right here.
Honestly, not a bad play.
Not a terrible play, but I don't know how sustainable that is. I mean, to be fair, on the other side, Papo 10 kills ahead of his next two teammates on the board. So, you know, definitely not just a one-sided affair in terms of asking for a carry, but...
Oh, Rillakuma's going to get the first on Expired Nuts. They push straight into this A site. It is also an eco for Tempers, so 11-12 most likely. Or at least broken by. Sheffy has the gun, and Destroyer's going to grab that.
Able to pick up that first kill, and now that you're in a 3v5, if you are the side of Tempers...
Poor Akia didn't get their ult.
Akikai could not get the ult in time. It's now a 2v5, and you're getting wrapped by this Cypher of Akikai, and you forget about a wrap. It's, you know, do you even have time to get wrapped? The answer is no. Rillakkuma just completely mowing you down. Flawless round, and hate to break it to you, but it's either win this, Temperers, or go OT.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I knew that round was going to go in favor of Interscope just because they had classics in one rifle, but the fact that it was flawless should give some sort of energy into Interscope here. They have the economy, they have the players going back towards A. They've been winning on this A site. Their previous full rush in didn't work well, so I'm kind of confused why they're again 5 stacking down the same lane, but I guess they're confident.
When in doubt, frag out, and Tootsie gonna try and do that here to open things out, but Rillakkuma and Dale just completely stomp over that A site defense, and now it's that number disadvantaged retake. Dale, the first to try and get some bullets engaged here, as it's now Patoke trying to continue the bouts. That op eventually gonna get taken out by Destroyer, and hey, at least one trade is there from Papo and a Hunter's Fury available here to try and use. Patoke, flash in hand, going through just about now. Knife flashed off the angle, ends up re-peeking alongside Rillakkuma, who's trying to dash in but gets taken out by Papo's Hunter's Fury. And now that 1v2 can really start to commence, but Destroyer in the off angle manages to catch Papo off guard, and nerds, my friend, OT is here.
Overtime.
I mean, I believe it was you that called this game can go either way, and it literally is still going either way. It is 12-12 on the half, and neither team has given up anything. Even though we did see Interscope, you know, struggle there, they brought it back.
It comes off the back of just more convincing retakes, more cohesive retakes, and being able to just be together and coordinated on those site hits can mean so much for you, especially when mechanically you're absolutely hitting the ball. Everyone on the side of Interscope, 19 frags apiece, barring Rilakkuma's 15 and 17, but you know, everyone's feeling it on the side of Interscope.
Pushing into mid. There's going to be Dale on your left side here. They're going to be flushing it out. 16 HP. That's a double found for Knife. Hey, you know, 1 for 2. You guess you got to take it here. Papo shots towards mid. That's the spike down. Tootsie getting Akikai. He's going to be good for the numbers and for the potential victory here.
But that spike is still dropped in the bottom of mid, so smoke's gonna be used, but Rillakkuma, if you just spray through, you take care of Papo with ease, and you're able to back away for absolutely free.
Swarm grenade out.
And now, all of a sudden, 3v2, overtime in your face, but Tootsie can still keep going, can still
Last
frag
player
out, and
standing.
Rilakuma at barely any HP remaining. This 1v2 absolutely possible for Tootsie, but you need to try and isolate a fight here, and that isolated fight not
30
coming
seconds
anytime soon.
Clearing the top angle. Knife has the dart. It's going to give away Tootsie's position. Rilakuma knowing they're on low HP, not wanting to be the martyr in this scenario. Knife, just knife peeking, jumping around. Tootsie's going to have this. Hunter Shuri comes through. Tootsie is going to find Rilakuma. 10
Yes,
seconds left. They have to
Time
go
there.
for this, and they're going to get this plant down. They also have a lockdown available, Ancient Angel.
Lockdown ready and willing, but Tootsie actually wants to clear a little bit of space towards tree. I think steps finally may have been heard, and Knife gets caught out. It's a clutch for Tootsie. This Sentinel player finally able to catch up. Put some numbers on the board, my friend, because you've earned yourself another match point.
Oh, and I mean, Tempers has been at this place before. Interscope brought it back. They have one more shot, the final opportunity to get us into double OT or to take us to Haven? No, Lotus. Sorry. Lotus the Decider. Lotus isn't the Decider. Lotus the next map. Haven the Decider. You know, this game has been so long. Sometimes we start losing our minds.
It feels like it should be like the final showdown, but we still have more after this. But expired on that op, that glass operator in OT to try and close things out, misses the first shot and actually gets taken out by Akikai. So all of a sudden, you know, there's a lot of pressure here on Patoke. You have to do so much, and you're about to get pinched, and you do fall, but Papo, picking up that operator, was able to find one, but immediately traded back. It now means that it's all up to Sheffy alone, isolated, 2v1'd, and now we go again, nerds.
Oh my gosh, man. I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, double overtime. These teams, neither one is giving up. They're both doing better on attack, it seems. So if it's a game of who's going to win defense, I have a feeling that Interscope, they were closer on the previous one. I got to give it to them by an inch, but it is just, it's like 41, it's 49 to 51 almost, right? You still can't tell.
But Interscope are solely relying on hero plays, right? Papo, 28-18, the clutch from Tootsie to get them to match point in the first place. It has to be off the back of some impressive heroics, but Destroyer's up. That could be huge, but Rilakuma takes care of Tootsie, so no clutch factor now. It's all up to Dale in the back of the site, who finds the first, but can't find any more than that. That 3v4 retake, it's gonna go down, and it's gonna commence.
Spike is down. Players wrapping around. There's one towards stairs. It's going to be Akikai seeing if they can find it. They grab Papo. No, to take them down. Akikai's going to fall. So the numbers now even. Papo winning it out. And this is the post plant positions you were discussing. It's hard to break through, but Rilakuma's going to grab it. Papo on the 3K. Knife with the trade. It's Pinstripes on the kill feed to give Interscope this power play. And we talked about this. If Tempers gets into good post plant positions, it's hard for Interscope to break through, but they managed regardless.
Switching sides.
Because there wasn't good post plant.
Exactly.
Just point blank. They didn't have the time. The retake came so quickly from the side of Interscope that you didn't have the time to get into those good post plants. You can just keep on trading out and use your mechanics to help you diff. And all of a sudden, now you're sitting here 14 to 13. You won the defense. Now you just get to close it out on Easy Street.
I mean, that's what Interscope is hoping. To pick up the first here in double overtime to lock it away. Akikai slowly pushing their way into mid to see if they can get this first fight. They hear the footsteps. Their position hasn't been given up. And they're playing this a lot slower all in all. Knife with Owl Drone to push on in. And Odin in hand. Akikai seeing if they can find the first, but they're just going to get ticked down in terms of the damage. Push on through. Your boy Destroyer finding expired nuts to get them the first. An entry onto A site.
They find the first, but there still needs to be a little bit more here if you want a convincing post plant. Dale's going to be able to stick that spike But there's still 4 players alive, and that spam that comes through, that's a little bit of damage, but it gets traded back the other way. So that blind from the Paranoia ready, and it's the spam from Dale to be able to take care of Tootsie. The trade on Papo is there, and now all of a sudden, it's that flood retake from heaven that will never get commenced thanks to the backstab from Knife. And all of a sudden, 15-13 is where we end map 1.
And man, I mean, just insanity on the field, getting into double overtime. It's so insane. And I mean, Interscope, they managed to win it out.
It's so insane that I'm glitching away from it.
I didn't want to bring it up, but I'm kind of like over here, like I'm looking at this. I'm looking.
Yeah. I'm actually losing touch with reality, because what was that map 1? It was hero play after hero play for the side of Tempers to keep them in the game, to get them to match point first. They were the first team to hit 12. It was 12-9, and all of a sudden it was just this coordinated effort, this universal front from the side of Interscope to just bring it back. Right? All of a sudden, they start bringing rounds together. They start trading out effectively. Their pacing looks good. It gets to overtime. Tootsie manages to clutch, so it's not just Papo doing the heavy lifting anymore. And all of a sudden, it all crumbles down. And it's that unilateral front from the side of Interscope to close out map 1. But, I mean, listen, credits to Papo, because 32-20 on Sova, 314 ACS, nothing to be played with.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, all in all, an intense kind of matchup between these two teams. Papo, I do got to commend them that the 32-20, insanity. But all in all, it's kind of funny. The kill participation and the spread for Interscope is a lot more even. They're all closer to 20. Obviously, unfortunately, Rilakuma is there at the bottom, but you know, the secondary duelist and the entry duelist, so they die more often. They probably get a bit more of those first bloods, and I'm correct. They have 5 first bloods. Not to be contested, though, Akikai has 7 first bloods, if you look at terms of the numbers, which is insane that you have your Sentinel getting those lurks in. All in all, Interscope seems to just have a more coordinated situation, whereas Tempers kind of had that sort of solo outplays for some of these players. It was something that you were, discussing to hopefully to, a more reasonable end. But I say that as the glitching continues, and hopefully after a break we'll come back, the map will settle, Angel will settle, and we'll all be good and dandy. We'll see you guys in a bit.
us to leave, but it won't keep me from this heart. And I'll try to carry on again, but I never really knew that it was over. Paralyze my heart. Don't wanna feel your touch like ice, tracing all my scars. Why is it hurt on the inside? It's unforgivable, but I forgive you every time. Hard to let it go, 'cause we're intertwined. I break you, you break me, but something about it makes us so, baby. Every piece keeps us together in the cold. I break you, you break me, holding our love in chains.
The night has come, it's cold and losing my control. Your light is gone, and lonely darkness fill my soul. I wish that you could save me from my isolation. It's way too complicated. Let's stop this conversation. Let's stop this conversation. We got no relation. It's crazy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Luxe Series group stage. My name is Ancient Angel. Here with me is Nerds Corner. I am back from the glitched netverse, metaverse, whatever you want to call it. And we have finally recovered from an exhilarating map number 1.
Yeah, 1513 double OT. That was crazy. Honestly, first time in a while that I've seen Ascent not only go into overtime, but also with an off meta comp winning. I am so excited for this next coming map. Lotus, it's another, common map in the pug pool, but still, with how these teams are playing it, I have a feeling it's going to be just as high and just as octane heavy.
That's an understatement. I feel like we're going to see a lot of really cool plays on Lotus. I'm expecting some more Dale lurkiness coming out, especially from another player, just like Akikai as well. And that's really what we should be expecting from the rest of this series, because we're talking about 2-3 site maps where you're going to be seeing a lot of lurking, a lot of extremity control on defense. You're generally just going to be seeing a lot of very similar but slightly different strategies, which is obviously, basic similarities between Lotus and Haven, but that's kind of the beauty in these two maps and what we're going to see throughout the rest of the series. So if you thought Ascent was cool, just wait. It's about to get even crazier. And I'm sure these players are just waiting to go into that lobby. So Agent Select should be excited, or exciting, I should say. And in terms of agents, do you have any preds for these comps?
ISO on Dale would not be surprising. Neon would not be surprising as well, just because it's really popular on this map. Raze also, in terms of the duelist. Now, normally I would just say Neon Raze just because it makes sense, but considering Dale decided to whip out ISO, that one could be on the table. In terms of initiators, I'm going to say Breach Gecko are really popular, Fade or Sova for information. How about yourself?
I'm expecting that Clove actually to come out, which Rillakuma's hovering it, but I was generally expecting it earlier because we've seen some teams start to shift towards the Clove on this map. You can be a little bit more fast-paced, you have a fair bit of reactivity, you can be a bit more aggressive. Deadlock was something I was considering, and now that Akikai's hovering it, it really does make me think it might have been Akikai a long time ago. I say a long time ago. It was a couple weeks ago. Interscope had a player that was very, very Deadlock proficient. So it might actually have been Akikai, but of course, we change names every once in a while here. And over on the side of Tempers, it's business as usual, right? You're just running the double initiator, you're running the Fade Breach, you have the Raze, you have the Killjoy, you have the Omen for the smokes. Things are
the standard comp for Lotus.
Yeah, just quite business as usual. Interscope, potential for Knife, Raze, Akikai, Sova.
Interesting. You know, I wouldn't mind it. Maybe it's just like they're all flex players and it's just a proficiency on the specific map that they go on rather than a specific role that they play. Like, oh, I'm lurking on this. I find it quite funny that Dale is back on the ISO hover. All things considered, this is also Interscope's map pick. So the fact that they're not the ones to lock in off a rip is a little bit funny. We do see Akikai going for that, and instead of a jet, it goes back to a raise.
So no jet, just raise, but you're still having Dale on that ISO. So if you're an ISO fan, you're definitely happy. You're sitting at home, you're giddy, you're excited for more kill contract epic anime ISO duels. And I think I'm a fan of the Sova. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like we saw, you know, a couple teams use it here and there with the Sova on Lotus, and it got pretty underutilized. Like, it was a little trend for a little while, and then it just never got used again. So I'm excited to see it come back into form here, and we'll see what specifically Akikai can do on it. But another sticking point that just has to be mentioned again for the side of Interscope: no flashes.
Yeah, I mean, they did okay. I mean, they did okay on the previous one. I was gonna harp on it, but considering that they won, it's kind of difficult to be like, no, how could you not have any flashes? They did good. They brought it back. They had a really solid set of synergies with their team, so they can't really discredit their playstyle.
That's true. Who needs flashes when you have bodies? And bodies at the problem will solve everything, as Tempers is trying to show us here as Expired takes out Knife. But the immediate trade by Dale and continuing to frag on the site, in fact, leads a firm numbers advantage in their hands. But that wrap from 2C in main was able to do something for just a brief moment until it was shut down, and Rillakkuma can close things out. So that pistol round, it goes off essentially without a hitch.
Raise, you always work to
I feel, is it weird to say this? This game is also going to play similarly to Ascent, where if Tempers gets good post-plant positions, Interscope is going to have a hard time for the retake. But I feel like it'll be a little easier because they have Raze to flush out those close quarters with the Pain Shell, and they do have information on a Boon Bot. But I also think that it'll still be very true that once Tempers gets a good post plant, and I feel on this map it might be even easier, the retake will be a little bit more difficult. So Interscope is going to try to prevent that as much as possible.
And this is a great round to prevent that, right? You're able to buy up an Outlaw in the hands of Knife, and considering none of the players on the side of Tempers even have armor to begin with, that's going to be a one shot to the body at any point. But, you know, unfortunately for the side of Interscope, you know, you kind of left that C site alone for just a little bit too long. So now your rotation game, it's kind of forced Destroyer to start peeking this angle pretty early.
Oh, Destroyer's getting out of dodge. The Aftershock being perfectly lined up, but Rillakkuma and Destroyer going to pick it up regardless. Papo grabbing another for the board.
Ooh. Utility brawl out on the site will commence. Expired, 19 HP, won't be able to find out Dale, and there's that Outlaw finally coming through with one from Knife, but Patoke 1v4 turned 1v3 to try and respond, but with just 14 HP, you eventually get taken out by Akikai. It's a team ace to close out round number 2, and you know, you keep the majority of your guns into this next round.
They also, I think, went for that sort of light broken buy where they have some other players able to buy up into this. Akikai gonna grab themselves a Marshall and double Vandals for Dale and Knife to provide some firepower and potentially get the 3-piece.
This is that round where that Outlaw would have made a huge difference, but unfortunately, no Outlaw on the board. So instead, you just have Dale lurking about towards B, drawing a little bit of attention. And Destroyer could actually be huge here with the Bucky if any sort of play gets made out of this smoke.
Slowly pushing out a B. Knife is trying to see if they can pick this lurker up. They don't get it for free. Instead, they're going to be pushed off of C. at least right now, the pressure is on. The rotate potential could be there, but it's not going to land. A double found for the side of Interscope, as it seems Tempers has not been able to recover from this, for the previous rounds.
No, and Sheffy running away, trying to group up with Tootsie, but Knife already on top of it. Means that it's a 1v5 required from Sheffy, and I mean, they are running him down, so they're giving him the ones, but how long can you be that consistent for? Especially when you don't even have the spike and there's only 30 seconds.
30 seconds left.
I mean, they don't have an ultimate. They don't have too much to work with other than this blind and a TP, some smokes to boot if they want to isolate these players. A spam through, and Rillakuma's going to grab it. That's the third found for Interscope, as they're just showcasing why they pick this map, and they know how to play it. Again, I think so far, again, not only have they won in terms of just fragging potential, but they have prevented every single site take and have rotated rather quickly. It's almost like they're begging for Tempers to fake.
Here.
Do you think they will? Or do you think it's just going to be...
Nice and easy.
I don't know why, but I was like, it was a gut call. Like, they should. I mean, I would either fake or rotate or just like, draw some info out. But realistically,
I mean, it's an eco round, right?
That's far from their problems. It is an eco right now.
You just group up, frag out, but Rillakuma timing through the smoke takes care of Expired, and now all of a sudden those three players trapped in towards Bend. They have to try and step out, and they step right in to the Odin of E-Boy Destroyer, and now Rillakuma taking care of Sheffy means Tootsie 1v5, nothing to come of it. Great round from the Clove though.
This is the round where they should. I mean, they could. I don't think it's a bad strategy. I just think it also depends on how Interscope reacts to it. You want to try and keep them on their toes, or at least default into it. Something different than what they have been doing so far. This is an attack-sided map, and they have just been prevented from planting, prevented from taking space multiple times so far.
Yeah, sure. I like it. Let's see if they can find it. I mean, they're able to finally put together this default, so to speak, right? 3-1-1, Expired leading the charge over towards Mound to try and pick up that showstopper.
If they can get it, it would be huge.
They did. So that would be a huge frag, but Tootsie having to find the first onto Akikai instead, won't be able to secure that kill. And now that's numbers gained for the side of Interscope, as you still have this powerhouse threat of Dale locked in towards C here.
Ooh, the double tap has been destroyed as they run away to try and draw some info out. Something I didn't call exactly this, but something similar where it's like you're trying to draw info, you're trying to fake into one area and then rotate off, or at least play for info and then rotate. Unfortunately, Interscope reacts by immediately rotating themselves. And they don't have to worry about it that much. A stun's gonna come through. There is that ultimate. The double up with the breach utility works so well to take down E-Boy Destroyer.
Yeah, but Akikai still able to take care of Expired means that things are at best going to be an even 3-on-3 here for the side of Tempers as they finally get that spike planted. Knife, the swing in from heaven means that numbers back on the Interscope side. And Akikai, the next to swing in, does spot out Papo, and now it just feels like they're all boxed in. Dale finds that first through the smoke, and Akikai can just go ahead and stick the defuse. Sheffy, you really can't do anything about this, son. You get swung in, you get done up. It's an unlosable streak that's starting to form.
This is, I feel like, this is a really solid retake. I was about to say, it's a really solid retake. They have to have a timeout here. This is currently 5-0. They're on an eco for this round. They have to at least think about the next round. And more than just that, they had a solid game plan with that breach stun flash into the ultimate, and they could not capitalize off of it, even though they had such a solid sort of setup. It just fell apart so quickly. So tightening the gaps in their defensive line once they've already taken that site, as well as making sure that they have good strategies to get the plant down in the first place.
And if they can get that plant down in the first place, they need to make sure that they're running the right protocols to not overstep and die. That's part of the reason that they did lose, was you had the 3v3, you had time on your side, someone gets a little too anxious over towards heaven, boom, all of a sudden 3-on-2. You aren't aware of your gaps, boom, 3-on-2. You don't have the full awareness, you don't have the full utility covering every single angle, or you leave something unattended, you lose those numbers, you lose that retake, and you know, you're on an eco again, so it's really gonna be hard to justify this round going the way of Tempers. But you know, if you can come back 6-0 down and you can get a 4-8 half, a 5-7 half, that's a great recovery.
That's the plan here. I mean, 5-7's a little far-fetched considering that they're on an eco here, but 6-6 is on the table unless they can find themselves a
Tempers
thrifty.
get 5.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
That makes a lot more sense. I was like, I mean, in some dream scenario, yeah, sure. And considering how Tootsie's playing right now, it could have happened. A potential thrifty on the board, but have to do a lot of damage if they want this to succeed.
Oh, Tootsie could catch a timing here. Dale already at half HP. Any well-placed bullet to the body would do it, and body shot bandit, Tootsie says, I am.
That gives him a gun as well on top of it. Skirmish breaking out towards A. Tokei's gonna grab another onto Akikai. This slower play is working for them. They're just hitting their shots right now.
Who needs macro? Who needs defaults when you can just hit your shots? I mean, obviously, it's been very good, patient play out in this eco round from the side of Tempers to get them to this spot in the first place, but they're in a good spot here, and that Nightfall onto Destroyer, plus the stun, plus a paranoia as well. You have to give the side up, so now all you have to deal with is Knife.
Oh, Knife on the 3K! And there we go. Just as quickly as it starts, it falls apart. I see your hands up in the air. Yeah, no, that was my response too. Like, that Knife just got the 3K.
You know, I blame myself. I blame myself because I said, you know, that you know, you're gonna go 6-0 down. I said you're gonna go 6-0 down, and then they get the first 2 picks, and I go, hold on, wait a minute, this is winnable. You can absolutely win this. You know, Destroyer gets forced off the site. You isolate a player on the site, and then what do? You run into that player, and he kills all of your team.
I mean, they're fighting for rebel control early. Getting aggro here, so they're going to try to change at least some of their pacing in this round, but the pacing isn't everything. There's a lot more to this. Rilakkuma back on this angle, formed from stairs. The haunt's going to be broken. They have info. They should be picking up the pace yet again, and they're going to do just that as Expired Nuts enters onto the site.
Expired on the site, able to find that first frag onto Knife, but it's actually Sheffy to find the second, and Tootsie as well can take care of that kill. Contract will eventually get traded, and now that 1v3 for Rilakkuma, not dead yet, not going to be available here, so you just have to hope you can find the frags the first time, and you won't. It's Papo to close things out, and finally, Tempers get one on the board.
That pace change, just being able to go in full force, run it down, and kind of worked for them. They have a really solid ultimate here to maybe do something similar, I would say, the Rolling Thunder.
We'll see if that Rolling Thunder will come into use here on A, right? Like, the Rolling Thunder to take the site, and then potentially you have that lockdown to hold?
Or vice versa, or just save it for the retake. Regardless, no more lockdown. Tootsie's gonna go down.
And no Hunter's Fury either. Just immediately burned by Akikai trying to find a pick. Doesn't even get a tag. So, ultimately now, it kind of seems like an easy idea to just go ahead and hit this A site. You do it off the back of the Rolling Thunder, but Knife eventually does get taken out by Expired, and that's a huge paint shells. It doesn't fully take care of the lockdown, but it would do most of the way. But Rilakkuma Make sure things are a 2-on-2, and oh, Dale's not expected
Dale.
here.
One enemy
Oh.
remaining.
Gets the one. They're gonna be able to put Sheffy in a tight spot here. It's a 1v2. There's potential, but I highly doubt it's going to land. The bomb needs to get defused. Dale doesn't spot him. Sheffy on a different angle. They're shifting their way through. Rillakkuma has the timing and the read. And they get themselves the 7th.
I mean, once you clear out tree there, once Dale goes into tree, you immediately know, okay, he's not tree, so he has to be main. He has to have taken a timing, so you can swing that confidently. You can clear it if you're clove, because you can use that not dead yet to immediately just come right back and say, hey, we're just going to swing him 3-2-1 kill. So, confident retake there from the side of Interscope. That's their, I was gonna say Intrascope, and that wasn't right. It was the other one. So, confident retake. They now have their showstopper online to compete with expireds, if they even need to, because it's another eco round for Tempers.
Interestingly enough, Knife is on this Judge. It's almost like they want to pop their ultimate here, just like Expired is. And they kind of knew, right? Expired should be trying to get a pick with this ultimate because they're on an eco. They don't really have much to work with. Ooh. And he does. Akikai's going to go down, but look who's in the corner. That's 1. That's 2. A paint shell pops to the corner. An ultimate invested. They don't pick up. They do grab Sheffy with the paint shell, not even with the showstopper.
Rosa ult into a beautiful paint shell. That's exactly what you need to see. That's just unlucky. What do you do there? You don't clear it out, I guess. And that's the one round he's sitting there with a Judge. So
yeah.
Pro tip: clear your corners. You have prowlers.
At least just like send one out.
Yeah,
I mean,
right? That's the hope, but that's huge, right? Because you still have this not dead yet from Rillakkuma, which can be used in just so many ways for so many reasons. And the only thing you really have still left in terms of ultimates is that lockdown that's getting put down by Tootsie.
I mean, they have from the shadows, but like, is that even an ultimate? It's definitely some ultimate. Inspired Nuts has got a decent amount of space, and Knife kind of baiting to take this fight. Rillakuma's there to keep them safe out in a corner. The plant's gone down. Potenkin gets one more. Rillakuma's back in the action. The not dead yet's gonna get hunted down. Expired Nuts gets another. They're on for the second, but Akia is looking to see if they can steal it away. It doesn't land though.
And finally, that long-awaited second round comes to play, and it goes to Tempers. They're able to bring something together here, and you have to give credit to Patoke, right? Expired's in a really tough spot. You can't swing because Rillakuma's holding, so what does Patoke do? Patoke goes, okay, I'm going to bail you out, Expired, and when you bail out Expired, all of a sudden, it gives him a little bit more agency to start fragging, start being able to do what he needs to do, and it works. He's 10-8, the only positive member for his team. And you could easily say the reason that they have the 2 rounds that they do.
Sun coming through. Inspired Nuts seeing if they can get themselves out of here. Dale also running amok right now. They feel like a fish stuck within a tuna can as they're just surrounded. E-Boy Destroyer has a Judge in hand, and they can pop out at any moment.
Oh, they're not gonna clear it. Destroyer 1, make it a second, and Akikai looking to get one of their own. It leaves poor little Expired in a 1v4, and you find 3, but you would need an ace clutch to get this, my friend. It's just not happening. Akikai closes things out, and that's 8-4 denied. The best you can hope for if you're Tempers is a 9-3.
And they're doing this on their defensive side, by the way. Just to point it out, like, this is 9-2 on defense.
Well,
with only 2 retakes. Yeah.
Is this a opportunity to say mental boom? Yeah. Because
I guess.
Listen, map 1 was so close, right? 13-15. It was your map pick. It didn't go your way. Now you're coming into this. You lose the first 3 rounds, 4 rounds in a row. mentally you're just out of it. You're just drained.
I would be.
Tuned out. If you're Tootsie, I mean, this is like the kill you get to maybe bring yourself back into the game, think to yourselves, okay, maybe there is a way, but Dale looking to just completely shut everything down. It's a huge flash, but still he's able to go 1 for 1.
Why do I still have like Interscope? Like I believe that they can get this round. Okay, not anymore. Tootsie's gonna pick up Knife, and at this point it's 2v4. So even any measurable statistic will tell you this is a difficult round to come back from. Tootsie and Sheffy wrapping things up. They get the 9-3. They're trying to recover their mental stability, especially because 9-3. They did that on defense. They're now on attack. This in theory should be easier. In practice, I don't know. All things considered, the retakes for these teams might be looking rather strong. They might, you know, it's a possibility.
I mean, it was Haven where the retakes were looking pretty weak once the spike went down. But if you're talking about just fighting for the site and flooding in after the enemy team, it's actually been decently successful. And the one big advantage that this composition in the hands of Tempers has is the fact that you have a ton more info to work off of, right? Both Papo and Patoke being able to set up their team for good fights means that either your teammate just peeks and they get some info, or you can just swing with a sheriff and find a headshot.
And that's Dale out of the equation.
Yeah.
Off the rip, E-Boy Destroyer is gonna try and enter in. They want to clear as much that Sentinel utility.
Okay.
Knife is gonna go down on top of that. They're just going down to Tootsie fairly quickly. E-Boy Destroyer and Akia able to pick up picks of their own. A double for Akikai as they are just dominating. Destroyer gets one more. Tootsie on the 3-piece, but they get shut down. And what should have been a round for Tempers gets yoinked away.
If I'm Tootsie, I'm so upset. I got the opening pick, beautiful shot. I back up into the site, and then my teammates just run out water. And they just can't win the fight. Like, they just can't win the fight. They lose. And then I'm left in, like, an impossible situation. That's so tough. And the big thing now is not only do they lose that pistol, it's double digits for the side of Interscope. So they're going to be in a position where, hey, the buy's looking good. You know, we have a ton of weaponry advantage. You know, our opponents, best they can do is force buy and gain a lot of space on A. But if we just give them that space, then there's not really much to show for it.
E-Boy Destroyer grabbing this orb. Hunting for the 11th. Dale's going to enter in, and there's going to be Tootsie hiding in a corner. The potential was there, but they swing wide. E-Boy Destroyer with a double. Sheffy and Patek can pick it up. The pieces where they left off.
Planted.
Papa with a stinger on the fade of the smoke is able to find Rilakkuma, so the player advantage absolutely there, but expired. Next up to bat, just guns you down with a Bucky, and now it's that fade dealing with Knife, sitting all alone here. This is a force buy that actually went Temper's way. Despite the odds, they found it, the all elusive, the rare, never before seen, round number 4.
Hey, 410 right now is exactly what they need. Whether it's elusive, whether it's rough to find, that retake might have just brought them back at least some mental strength. I don't think it's going to get them in this round. All things considered, there's a 6-round deficit, and Tempers cannot make a single mistake, at least for the next couple of rounds. All things considered, this should be a 5-10 scenario with a bonus.
Come on, let's go.
Dale has a Vandal, I'm scared.
Oh, I thought they had a Guardian.
Nope. Rilakkuma Guardian. I'm scared.
Oh,
but that's a huge stun, and Sheffy able to find Akikai here means that this round all of a sudden becomes significantly easier. But Rilakkuma still able to get a consolation pick.
There's also KJ Ultimate.
Yeah, but Tootsie. That's a huge Nanostorm. It finds Rilakkuma, and there were more trades going on towards B. So, yes, this lockdown will be able to find that C site, but with the player advantage firmly in the hands of Tempers, Papo gets caught out on the swing, and now they have a full ability to rotate all the way over back to get the spike. Especially if you clear Sheffy here. Tempers, you're in a real bad spot.
Oh, the smoke was placed for them, but Sheffy's got the double in the end to find 3 on the round. And again, it needed to be 5 here for Tempers to have some hope, considering it was a bonus for them and they buy up into this one. But Interscope, I don't think they're going to let that one slide.
They refuse. You
I
absolutely
would.
don't let that slide.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not letting that slide. So you win that 5th round. You make sure that, you know, not only do you win the eco round, you win the round immediately after. Now, this is technically your bonus if you are the side of Tempers. And they're in pretty good spirits. I mean, everyone has a rifle. You know, Tootsie still technically a rifle, even though it's a Guardian.
Over
Oh,
there.
huge mound fight.
Stopping fire.
Oh, an expired is going to win that. I mean, at this point, 5-10 Tempers. They have the pick up. They have the showstopper. They have some momentum that they need to maintain if they want a comeback. And they, as much as you said mental boom, I think that they're starting to fortify their brains and minds.
Good old mind brains.
Exactly.
Huge showstopper out from Expired. It's an ISO shield that goes down at just the right time. Expired able to go 1 for 1, but Akikai can quickly equalize, make things 3 on 3, and Papo finding Destroyer, a body block used by Patoke to guard the team as Sheffy can swing and protect Papo. A 6th round. It comes in at the perfect time.
Oh, they winning that round. Interscope has got to be seething. All things considered, right? You saw Rilakuma spamming things through. Expired Nuts is shot up on the leaderboard in kills, and they just haven't been able to pick up one in these 3 rounds. It's going to be another rifle forced out by Interscope, so they can't get this. It's going to be 8-10. If they can, it'll be 11-6. And Tempers might be on the run. Well, not on the run, but they're going to have some worse off economy and weaponry.
Yeah, you know, pockets are going to be hurt for sure. This is that A main fight. Kind of lands towards the hands of Tempers, and this 2v1 onto Dale. It works out in their favor as well. So opening frag found yet again for the defense, as now they want to try and take a fight over towards A main. Akikai's not going to get anything onto Expired, and there's that swing from Sheffy to take care of Destroyer. It's now these remaining 2 players in Rilakuma and Knife, and they have so much to do in a 2v5. It's just, it's not realistic, but 50 seconds and a dream.
Shots through.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
okay, that's just a shot through the smoke, and Rilakuma is happy with that pick. They're gonna fall back from that. They still have that bomb on top of it. Rilakuma 1 away from the not dead yet, so if they can get a pick and allow Knife to play further back, give Rilakuma that space, might be the way for them to win a pathway forward. Expired Nuts is gonna not able to help Papa. Papa was spotted like by like their shoulder.
Just barely spotted. It's that
Oh,
distance
no.
rule that you hear so much about. And Knife gonna be able to finally stick that plant just about now. And Rilakuma! Oh my god!
As they flood, okay, so as they, I think I know what happened. As they flooded in out of heaven, Rilakuma was just waiting from a sort of the left side and closer to A main and stairs, and just spammed them through. That's exactly what happened. I bet my life on it, my dog on it.
Well, if only we saw it. But we didn't see it.
No way you
happen.
said that.
It
No
didn't
way you
happen.
call it out.
Nothing happened. So it's 11-6 magically. Rilakuma didn't do anything in that round.
No, they're just 19-9 right now, taking
Just
the top frag away
casually.
from Expired Nuts.
Yeah. Casually 19-9. Unclothed, by the way. Technically a controller.
Oh yeah. The best
Smoke
controller, quote unquote. Oh no, and Interscope, now they're feeling it. They win this round, it'll be putting them on to game point 2-0 in the group stage, and Patoke is there to slow their roll. Destroyer peeking out first is going to be a little bit rough. They pop that Nightfall, a stun coming through on top of it yet again. Akai seeing if they can get it. It doesn't land. Expired Nuts is going to take them away, but Knife and Destroyer are going to find the play together. Interscope, they have the numbers and 2 ultimates on the board to get them this 12th round. That's the showstopper invested as Dale pushes in. Knife grabs Sheffy, leaving just Tootsie to see if they can recover.
Tootsie 1v3 with the judge, eh?
I believe it.
Oh, you believe?
You're sure.
Okay.
Sure,
you know,
question mark?
I'm a little hesitant to that idea. I mean, there are vandals dropped on the ground, right? So that's step 1, I think, is get off the judge. Don't use the judge here. Pick up that vandal. There we go. And now potentially you have a chance. But I mean, all 3 of these players stuck in on site. 2 of them have ultimates, 1 of them being a not dead yet. So even if you find that first onto Knife, it's still going to be really difficult to drag both of these players to their grave. And
Dale's going to pop their ultimate when they tap the bomb, if Rillakkuma dies.
well, it doesn't even matter, because Rillakuma's not going to die. You just win that fight
yeah,
on
of course.
and everything just goes your way. You find match point, and I mean, compared to what Ascent was like, I mean, this is... This is very
this is Lotus.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
This is not a set.
This is not a set. And you know what I will say? I mean, the reason I blurt that out about Rillakkuma is just the way that they have it set up. Is that if Rillakkuma dies, they have a not dead yet that they can pop as a distraction, and Dale can pop out from drop. And if Dale dies, Rillakkuma can pop out there as well. So not only do they have a crossfire, but they have the ultimate set up in a really good way. Because like you could have done a crossfire in a different way. But this one works better.
I think you'd have Rillakkuma peak first there technically, but that doesn't matter because that round is over and this round is now. And for the side of Interscope, they want to just immediately run into this A site. They want to waste no time taking this series, but that lockdown from Tootsie is going to have something to say about it. But as Destroyer takes care of that Killjoy and destroys his lockdown, it just leaves these 3 remaining players. Papo, the first to fall. Next up would be Patoke at bat, unless it's Sheffy and Stairs who has something to say. No, it's all up to Sheffy at the end of the day, and he can't close it out. That means, nerds, 13-6 is where map 2 ends and where our series ends. We came into this not knowing who was going to take it, but I think we figured that out pretty early on into Lotus.
Oh yeah, I mean, at this point, it was 9-3 at the half and then 10-3. So any rounds that were able to be picked up by Tempers is just like consolation points at that point. If they got to, double digits there, then it's like, all right, they're going to get the comeback. They're going to start, building this momentum. But up until then, it was all just on that hopium that you're just huffing. And unfortunately for them, it's going to be 2-0. It is just a group stage, but, it's in the later stages, the group stage. So that's where it becomes rough.
And it wasn't even like the side of... I'm blanking.
And you're blanking? Oh, Interscope?
Not Interscope. Not Interscope.
Tempers.
Tempers.
Tempers, also known as not Interscope.
I was, for whatever reason, my brain went to the letter F. I don't know why. But it wasn't even like...
Failed.
Yeah, okay.
My bad.
It wasn't even like Tempers were playing that bad. They had the majority of First Bloods, right? In the 17 or 19 rounds, sorry, that we saw on this map, it was Tempers finding the First Blood 11 times. 11 First Bloods combined across all of these players, and you can see Expired trying his heart out on Lotus. 312 ACS, 5 First Bloods, 19 and 16, the only player on his team to go positive.
Ooh, that last comment, Sue, just stings. I mean,
but
when you
no
have...
one hide.
Listen, both Papo and Patoke are under double digits, so I get it. The one advantage I'll give them is the 9 and 4 in terms of assists, so they're definitely playing for their utility, but just rough to see. I mean, 13-6 is also a tough scoreline. All in all, though, Interscope are going to be the victors here today, and Do you know what this means for the standings? I mean, I have to double check, but
Well, I
oh,
can tell you that Interscope confirms makes it out of groups.
nice. Hey, so hey, good for Interscope. They managed to pop it through. As for Tempers, they're still gonna have to fight for the next couple of weeks to see if they can get themselves back up into that potential playoff spot.
Uh, yeah, I think it's technically possible by some weird round diff shenanigans that they'd be able to make it to playoffs,
Mhm.
but it's gonna be a road that's pretty difficult. So
And
overall, I'm I'm giving a round of applause to Interscope really quick because that was a great game of Valorant you
hats
played,
off. Hats off.
especially on map 2. I mean, map 1 it got a little close there, it got a little dicey. You let a couple rounds slip that you maybe shouldn't have, but Lotus a lot tighter, a lot more concise. You're just trading out as units. I mean, everyone was having a game, right? Like we talked about the kill participation on Lotus or on
Yeah.
Ascent, and Lotus was no different.
Yeah. All in all, that's going to be us signing off here for the Lux series. Make sure to follow along on X or Twitter. Follow along here on Twitch. We're going to have more games throughout the week. I believe it is on Thursdays. Oh, Wednesdays. My apologies. I thought
Monday,
it was
Wednesday,
Thursday.
and Friday.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. See, 3 times a week. You get multiple games up until playoffs come through. So that's going to be us. Huge shout out to Ice Fireside for the production. You as well, Ancient, for being on the cast, and everyone here who works on the Lux series. Remember, as always, stay safe, stay healthy, have a wonderful rest of your day, and good night.
Night has come, it's cold and losing my control. Your light is gone, and lonely darkness fill my soul. I wish that you could save me from my isolation. It's way too complicated. Let's stop this conversation. Let's stop this conversation. We got no